The Democrats like to make a really big stink when a sexy topic is on TV. And of course, the whole issue with police brutality and Black Lives Matter, it gets ratings. And so when it's getting ratings, it's good to talk about, and it's good to have this sort of divide and conquer strategy. Breonna Taylor, of course, was at the center of one of the worst cases that has existed in the country. Obviously, the worst, of course, being George Floyd. But her case, Tamir Rice's case, these are serious freaking cases in regards to dealing with actual police reform. And it seems to me, as was evidenced by, with the handful of videos that I watched that you did to cover it, there is a massive cover up going on in Louisville right now. And this has as much to do with the fact that they don't want any type of reform, and they kind of want this story to go away. But it's not going away. And if you can elaborate on that, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So let me first say, for people to understand, journalistically, it's not easy to prove a cover up. Flint, for example, I've been working on 5 years on this, with Jen. And it took me 17 times going there to build enough sources, obtain certain, material and documents to really crystallize that there was a cover up. And we have another story coming out about that soon. This is not hard. What the Breonna Taylor case is not hard. It's blinking red lights, a cover up. And it, obviously this week, Bill Cosby and prosecutorial misconduct was in the news because outrageously his conviction was overturned. Let's start with the Attorney General of Kentucky, who's, I believe, related to Mitch McConnell somehow. I don't know how, but I think he might be married to Mitch McConnell's granddaughter, I think. Daniel Cameron happens to be African-American. He literally was caught lying about the grand jury process. There was a grand jury. Yeah. He announced that they didn't, they agreed with him and his investigation that there was nothing criminal to charge here. He said that there was a witness that saw police announce themselves as police before barging into Breonna's apartment. Number one, that one witness originally said he heard nothing, and the police brought him back in 2 months and coerced him to change his story. There were 12 other witnesses that said, we didn't hear anything from the police announcing themselves. So that's the first bucket. He lied about that. Then 3 grand jurors came out anonymously and said, literally, they were not given the option to charge any of the officers criminally. And he lied. So right there, if you had any type of justice system, immediately the federal government would intervene, possibly impeach Daniel Cameron, and there would have to be a whole new grand jury. But that went on. The media did their, he said, she said bullshit, and life moved on. Then other facts came out. Literally, this was a gentrification scheme gone wrong. So let me explain it. Essentially, west side of Louisville is deeply, deeply poor. And the city government is trying to gentrify it. It's majority black and deeply poor. So essentially, one block that they were trying to get rid of and bulldoze the homes and get rid of all the people, there was one holdout that they couldn't get the home. His name was Jamarcus Glover. He was allegedly dealing drugs. So there's emails that came out where the mayor, Democratic mayor of Louisville, his office was in communication with Louisville PD about the Jamarcus Glover drug case. Why would the mayor's office care about a singular drug case, right? So why? Because they wanted to seize his home because it was the only home left on the block that they couldn't get as part of a urban redevelopment program. And they couldn't find evidence that he was dealing drugs. So what happened is they were surveilling him, and they found him coming out of Breonna Taylor's apartment, who didn't live in that neighborhood, with a package. So they literally went to a judge and fraudulently, without evidence, said, we believe he is diverting drugs to her apartment and picking it up there. No evidence. She didn't have a criminal record. No evidence. They give this to a judge. Judge signs the no-knock warrant. We know what happened. But the root of it was what we're talking about here, gentrification. Because Breonna Taylor would not have been involved if they could have proved he was selling drugs separately. So that's another layer of this, which, other than a few outlets, I haven't seen much coverage of the fact this was a gentrification ploy. Number three, the police told Breonna Taylor's family there was no body cameras from before, from leading up to it, or the shots. Breonna Taylor's family lawyer, found there were up to 30 body cameras from that night. So from leading up to it and during the actual event. The Louisville police lied on the police report. I mean, you could keep going with the list. They lied on the police report. So I've given you many, many different layers here, and nothing has been done. There's an FBI investigation, a DOJ investigation. Yeah, well, remember Eric Garner? Years of a Department of Justice investigation that started under Obama, ended in Trump. They didn't charge Officer Daniel Pantaleo with strangling Eric Garner to death. So who the hell knows how long this FBI investigation is going to happen? But everything is connected, because what I was telling you about this, the gentrification is going on between an unholy alliance between real estate developers who are buying off city governments,
Yep.
nonprofits who are somehow involved with all of this, and city government that's working with the nonprofits and real estate developers to basically shoot a gentrification cannon at poor black people and get them out, poor Hispanic people too, poor white people. There's been nothing done. Essentially the Louisville investigation is over, even though the Attorney General has been proven to have lied. Number two, you want to talk about Democratic woke signaling? Downtown Louisville, they have signs up on the street poles, Breeway, like a freeway, Breeway with her image. That's That's not even the city government that put it up.
That's about as woke as it gets, baby.
You know what? That's almost a candidate for Kente Cloth Tales. We have a segment called the Kente Cloth Tales.
Yeah, it's worse.
An anthology of tone deafness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
The city government actually and the police have actually forced. There was a park right across from City Hall called Injustice Square, which was the ground zero for the protesters down there. They forced all the protesters out. Can't be there anymore. They're talking about putting up a museum for her or something like that. And I spoke with her aunts, two of her aunts, who basically said, they didn't say this exactly, but basically said, how do you commemorate or memorialize somebody without giving them justice? I don't care about the street signs or, whatever. And even justice is a hard word, because there will be no justice. You can't bring her back, but accountability. So essentially, from what I have learned, and I'm still digging, this is a massive, massive cover up. I've also learned, it's another layer that we don't have time for. Oh yeah, there's a lot of wealthy people heavily funding media outlets in Louisville and other places. And shockingly, those media outlets just stop investigating and stop covering. So it is really deep. But at the end of the day, a 26-year-old African-American woman who's a nurse, no criminal history, who was in bed, has been murdered. We just published a Substack piece on our Substack today about this. There are at least 6-7 major smoking guns that show a cover up, and the media is more focused on analyzing the handshake between Biden and Putin during the Super Bowl.
I think you really nailed the crux of this story, very similar to Flint, and that's why they're not covering it. Because as soon as you get to the heart of it, which is always about economic advancement for the wealthy, that is when everyone pulls back their ships and say, yeah, we can't touch this anymore. And I think that's always been the case. The reason why Flint has been poisoned is because of gentrification, the desire of the rich to systemically take over a part of our country that had been forgotten since the even before the 1980s, basically since the 1960s. And it was just when it was ever going to come to a head. And their attitude of, rather than fix the problem, is to just tear it down and build it in the image that they want, not what the people need. And this is sort of the same issue here. I never heard of this before. You just said that the reason why Breonna Taylor is dead is because powerful corporate special interests in Louisville wanted to gentrify the last remnants of this particular part of West Louisville. And this guy, who happened to be dating Breonna, wasn't having it. And they had to find a way to take him out. And in the process...
there's one other layer. Number one, Jamarcus Glover was her ex-boyfriend, not currently dating.
Yes.
But
yes.
Number two, another layer of this cover-up that's just glaring. The Louisville police said that the postal inspector, every city has a postal inspector, had investigated it and confirmed that he was receiving suspicious packages at her apartment. Mm-hmm. The postal inspector comes out later and says, we were never asked to investigate this. We didn't investigate packages coming out of her apartment. So that was the basis of the no-knock warrant to get it signed, that they had evidence that he was receiving packages at her home, allegedly with drugs in them. A separate, outside of Louisville, postal inspector investigated it. They found what was actually in those packages were shoes. So it's like you got postal inspectors.
I'm still not sure how they were able to get a no-knock warrant given what they presented to whatever judge signed a no-knock warrant, because those are really only used in very specific, dangerous situations. Like a no-knock warrant is not something that should just be given. Like that's not a common thing. And I think that we have completely glossed over the fact as to how would they have even gotten that in the first place. That's not an easy thing to get. I don't think people understand that.
Absolutely. And they conjured up, convincing the judge that that package had drugs and she might be harboring drugs. So,
and I still think that that's still in and of itself. No knocks are when you think that somebody is going to escape, somebody is potentially violent, or somebody is going to destroy the evidence if you are there. And given what they presented, none of those circumstances were present. So I still do not understand how they were able to get a no knock in that case.
We're speaking with Jordan Chariton of Status Quo. Jordan, if you could retweet what I just sent you, because I want to bring...
Can you answer this question? Just answer this question so that we can... because I feel like it says, Jordan, have you investigated the 2 million Native Americans without running water? I'm not sure to specifically what that is referring to, but that would not surprise me.
And if he hasn't, donate to Status Quo so they can have more money.
Because I'm sure he'd be happy to go investigate that.
Seriously, this is somebody who actually wants to go in the field and investigate, but it costs money. So if this is a topic that you want covered, and we all know how, I mean, even to this day, again, this is why Deb Haaland gets to be nominated for, get the scent off of them, essentially. So that way people don't actually address where the real problems lie. But Jordan.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.